3 spine-chilling true stories of sinister depths. Cursed campers exposed in the haunted forest. Lisa thought her decision to take Jake and Emma camping would be a refreshing escape. Clarendon Forest had once been the highlight of her childhood. But the moment they set foot in that eerie wood, she felt the chill creeping in. The towering trees loomed, as if judging them. The air was unnaturally still. A blanket of silence wrapped around them, an ominous warning that something wasn't right. Jake and Emma laughed nervously, dismissing Lisa's unease as they set up their tent. As night fell, shadows danced just beyond the flicker of their campfire, whispers of complaints from the nearby woods mingling with their laughter. A shiver crept up Lisa's spine. She remembered the local folklore, the tales of campers who had vanished, the stories of sinister occurrences that sent shudders through the town. "It's just stories," she murmured to herself, but the rustles and snaps of unseen wildlife seemed to taunt her. "Look over there," Jake exclaimed, pointing into the blackness. "Isn't that an old campsite?" The boys went exploring, with Emma trailing hesitantly behind. Lisa remained by the fire, her heart pounding in her chest as eerie sounds played tricks on her mind. The flickering lanterns cast ghostly shadows, distorting the landscape, making it seem as though the forest was alive, lurking. When Jake returned, his face was pale. "I saw old gear, dog-eared photographs, and names carved into a tree, names from those stories." The tension hung heavily around them. Even as Lisa chuckled to deflect, something in her clenched. She tried to shake it off. "Just an old campsite," she said, but Lisa could barely mask the tremor in her voice. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Panic tightened its grip when their phones lost the signal, as though Clarendon Forest had erased any hope for rescue. They were truly alone. Lisa decided to find their car, a plan that felt increasingly foolish as shadows cast by the trees loomed larger. Every path twisted in ways that felt wrong, almost deliberately misleading, as if the forest was a hungry maze keeping them from freedom. A shriek broke the silence behind them, and they spun around, only to find darkness. Each rustle was amplified, and Lisa's survival instincts kicked in. "We need to move," she urged, her heart racing as they stumbled over roots and limbs. The air thickened, smothering them with fear. With every hurried step, the forest felt angrier, alive with secrets and threats that were waking. In the early hours of dawn, when the moonlight waned, Lisa glimpsed a figure through the trees. Its eyes glowed like dying embers, and a chill ripped through her. This was not just folklore twisting in her mind. It was the raw terror coursing through her. The sinister whispers of betrayal and Protector's curse echoed around them. They could feel the shadows tightening, coiling in unnatural ways. Who or what was waiting just beyond the thin veil of trees? Behind them, the cold wind carried a cry that wouldn't fade, leaving Lisa questioning her reality and the haven she thought they had. The figure lingered just beyond the trees, its glowing eyes piercing through the murky dawn. Lisa's heart thudded loudly in her chest, reverberating in her ears as the air grew colder, suffocating them in dread. She grasped Jake's arm tightly, her nails digging into his flesh. "Did you see that?" she whispered, her voice barely escaping her lips. Jake nodded, his eyes wide with terror. "We have to get out of here," he croaked, glancing anxiously over his shoulder as if expecting the figure to step into their view at any moment. Emma, pale and trembling, stayed close to them, her breaths shallow and quick. But instead of retreating, the forest seemed to come alive, rustling with a sinister energy. Branches creaked as if whispering secrets of long-forgotten souls. The air hung thick with a smell of damp earth and decay, making it hard to breathe. "Let us move," Lisa urged, forcing her feet to follow the path that they had lost. The shadows taunted them, shifting and swirling. But the path felt wrong. Every direction they took led them deeper into the grasp of the forest. It was as if the very trees were reaching out, pulling them deeper into its ominous hold. Stumbling over roots and rocks, panic ignited in Lisa's chest. Every shadow she saw, every whisper of wind sent her mind spiraling. "We should have left when we had the chance." Jake's reply was drowned out by another shriek that sliced through the stillness, chilling Lisa to the core. She spun around, expecting to see the source, but instead, found herself staring at an endless wall of trees. The forest was mocking them. Then, just as they trudged forward, Jake fell, tripping over a hidden root. As he scrambled up, his fingers brushed against something cold and metallic. "It's a knife," he said, holding it out to show, but its blade was stained. Dark and crusty, the metal seemed to glisten under the first rays of light. Lisa's gut wrenched. "What are you doing with that?" Just in case," he stammered, but his eyes betrayed how scared he was. As they continued, the shadows around them seemed to swell, darkening the very air they breathed. The forest hummed with an energy that felt predatory, as though an unseen presence stalked them, invigorated by their fear. Then they reached a clearing, a place that felt both welcoming and wrong. It was unnervingly quiet, too quiet. The light seemed disparate, illuminating the space almost like a spotlight. Suddenly, a sense of dread washed over them as Lisa spotted something ahead, a large tree, gnarled and twisted, standing apart from the others. Carved into its trunk were names and dates. Some were old and faded, but others were fresh, as if someone had only just etched them. "This is it," she breathed, recognizing one of the names from the stories, the last camper who had vanished years ago. The ground trembled, a low rumble vibrating through their feet. Lisa turned, but it was too late. A figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette that was far too familiar. Its hollow eyes burned with malice, reflecting the light of their desperate souls. "Run!" Lisa screamed, but they were frozen, as if the forest had ensnared them in its haunting grip. The air was electric, thickening with the weight of their decision. But as they turned to flee, the forest itself roared back, and the path shifted again. Which way was the way out? Panic gripped them. A howling wind stirred the trees, shrieking their pleas as the creature took a step closer, making Lisa realize this was no ordinary being. This was their fate, and the forest knew it. "Where do we go now?" Emma gasped, her voice cracking under pressure. Just then, Lisa glimpsed a flicker of light through the tree's. Hope or illusion? Was it salvation or another trap? She hesitated, fear gnawing at her gut. They had to choose, but was the price of safety something they were truly prepared to pay? The wind howled behind them, and in that moment, the forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting for their next move. What lay ahead was shrouded in darkness and revelation. Would they make it out alive, or was this just the beginning of something far worse? Lisa's heart raced, pounding in her chest like a distant war drum as she jerked her head toward the flicker of light. It pulsed through the trees, a hazy beacon of hope or an alluring trap. Fear wrestled with instinct, and she nearly stumbled back into Jake and Emma. "Should we go for it?" Jake asked, his voice trembling, like he was debating the strength of his own conviction. He gripped the knife tightly, a phoenix rising in the face of darkness, yet also a fragile card on the table of life and death. "We don't know what we're walking into." Emma's eyes darted nervously, narrowing in on the wavering light that danced just beyond reach. "Better than staying here," Lisa whispered back. They might regret it, but the forest was alive. She could feel it, the hunger swirling around them, yearning. She took a step, pulling her friends with her. As they neared the light, the air grew thick, almost syrupy. Time felt skewed, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. The soft glow pulsated, drawing them in like moths to a flame. And as they entered the small space aglow, the reality around them twisted into something surreal. A small clearing opened, revealing a forgotten campsite. Tattered tents flapping silently in the cold wind, remnants of long-extinguished fires crumbling into ash. This feels wrong," Emma stammered, her eyes wide in horror. "Look," Jake gasped, pointing toward an old map pinned to a tree. The paper was yellowed and stained, lines drawn frantically, routes leading to places unknown and sinister. Lisa's gut twisted. They sidled up to examine it, curiosity battling caution. Every name written led to a darker secret, each marked X a reminder of those who simply disappeared. It felt as if the forest were mocking their every move, relishing in the tales of those who had come before. What if Lisa started but was cut off by the sound of snapping branches behind them? The whispering of the trees intensified, wrapping around them like a shroud. They turned in unison, eyes wide as the shadows beckoned. The figure emerged once again, appearing just outside the flicker of their hopes, a grotesque, elongated silhouette. Its eyes were two pools of darkness, dripping malice, and it stepped forward with a slow, deliberate gait, coaxing the bristling air into silence. "Move!" Lisa shouted, pulling Jake and Emma as they stumbled away from the cursed safety of the campsite. The flickering light behind them dimmed into nothingness as they re-entered the oppressive embrace of the forest. Panic erupted, every shout and breath tangled with the rustle of leaves, drowning in a cacophony of terror. They sprinted blindly, careening along paths that twisted like coils. Branches snagged at their clothes, whispering secrets of despair. The forest was alive, hungry, and it had chosen them. Ahead, a chasm opened an abyss, darker than the rest of the woods, swallowing what little light remained. "We can't go back," Emma screeched, her voice echoing in the dreadful silence, urgency thickening the air. Over her shoulder, the figure loomed closer, the chill of death nipping at their heels. The world around them faded into an otherworldly haze, and they stood at the edge of the abyss, teetering. "Jump!" Lisa cried, heart racing as she threw herself into the chasm, its darkness wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. Jake and Emma followed, the sound of their bodies hitting the ground mingling with an earth-shaking roar from the forest itself. But what awaited them at the bottom of this void was perhaps far worse than death. "No, no!" Emma screamed, the breath escaping her as they stumbled to their feet. Before them stood remnants of a camp, eerily familiar only this time. It was no longer a ghost of the past. Was this forest a portal to the nightmares of those gone before them? What horrors were lying in wait? They had escaped one fate, but did that mean they were free? As the trees around them shimmered, the shadows danced with laughter, speaking volumes of their plight. "Run again," Lisa urged, hearing the long echo of footsteps behind them. The forest had its grip, and its hunger remained unsatisfied. But blind chaos was only the beginning. What if the escape route was not a way out but a new descent into terror? And the darkness was just beginning to unfurl its secrets. Panic surged through Lisa's veins as she registered the chilling familiarity of the remnants around them. The tents lay like discarded shells, weathered and sagging against the relentless wind. The air tasted stale, saturated with memories of despair. They stumbled deeper into the camp, shadows flickering in their periphery, taunting them with the presence of unknown watchers. "Are we back?" Jake whispered, his voice cracking as he scanned the perimeter. "No." Emma's voice pierced the shadowy veil. "This can't be. We have to find a way out." Lisa felt the weight of something ancient pressing down on them. The trees loomed more menacing, their branches resembling skeletal fingers reaching out as if to ensnare them. She turned towards the trail behind them, where the figure had last appeared. It was gone, but its absence felt more threatening than its presence ever could. "We need to stick together," she said, trying to steady her racing heart. "The map, maybe it has clues." They gathered around the tree again, the ink scrawled upon the weathered paper dancing in the fading light. Names jumped out at them. Sarah, Mark, erratic markings spiraling into a maze, drawn by fingers that had trembled in fear. Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that every line etched into that map held secrets from those who never returned. The forest had devoured them. They were nothing now, just echoes. Before she could voice her thoughts, the ground shifted beneath them. A low growl reverberated through the soil, rattling her bones. In a blink, the campsite transformed. the haze of memory washing over them. Voices chirped like sick birds, faint murmurs full of sorrow. Were they trapped within a nightmare, replaying the horrors of those who came before? Rattled, Emma scanned the shadows, her eyes wide with terror. What if it's us next? Stop! Don't say that, Jake exclaimed, desperation creeping into his tone. We're not going to be part of this place. In a sudden moment of resolve, Lisa pointed out into the darkening trees. That way. We should go that way. We can find the edge of this, whatever it is. Just as they darted toward the trees, the shadows seemed to congeal, a black mass swirling forward like an angry tide. The air chilled, and Lisa caught a glimpse of what appeared to be faces twisted in agony within the darkness, mouth open in silent screams. Time fell away into a cruel blur as they ran, the ground vibrating beneath their feet with rhythmically pounding beats. Faster, please. Emma's voice fractured, her fear a palpable force. Branches clawed at their faces, scratching ragged trails against their skin. Each hurried step brought them closer to the unknown, the lurid whispers of the forest echoing louder, feeding on their dread. The dark figure reappeared, closer this time, seeming to pull energy from the very shadows surrounding them, each step steady and hauntingly deliberate. In a terrifying twist, Lisa stumbled over a root, crashing onto the forest floor. The world spun, and as she looked up, she saw the figure loom over her, an abyss of darkness unfurling beneath its feet. Help! She cried out, her voice raw, but the echo was swallowed by the trees. Jake and Emma reached her side just as the figure extended a skeletal arm, fingers curling toward Lisa's throat, intent and hungry. The air grew thicker. It felt as if they were suffocating beneath unseen weight. What do we do? Jake shouted, panic lacing his voice. Run! Emma grabbed Lisa under her arm, helping her to her feet as they broke free from the forest's horrifying embrace, blood pounding in their ears. Each desperate step was laced with dread. How could they escape from something that knew the very darkness of their souls? But as they dashed forward, glimmers of hope danced just ahead, a faint illumination beckoning them like it had before. Uncertainty clawed at them like the unseen fingers of the forest, pushing them onward while simultaneously grasping them in its serpentine grip. Lisa hesitated, suspicion clawing at her gut. What if it leads us back? What if it's a trap? The question hung over them like a noose. The call of the light transformed, twisting from a promise of safety to a siren's call. Its soft glow now an omen. But it was too late. They were already running for that cursed light, racing toward what could be their salvation or their doom. As they plunged into the brightness, the world around them shivered, and a loud crack echoed, an ominous reminder of the forest's unsettling hunger. What awaited them on the other side? With every heartbeat, dread settled heavier, knowing the forest was only just beginning to reveal its true nature. The world exploded into highs and lows, colors twisting like nightmarish dreams. As they broke through the threshold of light, Lisa gasped, a bright glow engulfing her, momentarily blinding. The warmth, smooth like honey, wrapped around her like an embrace, but instinct screamed that it was a trick. Where are we? Jake gasped as he stumbled into the clearing, the comforting illumination revealing nothing but desolation. They stood atop rolling hills entwined with fog, the oppressive trees replaced by stark, bare patches of ground. The air felt strange here, thicker yet lighter, as if time and space had warped. Dread curled around them, a weight heavier than before. Emma squinted at the horizon, her face pale as she whispered, "Look." The light flickered, pulsating violently. Shapes clawed their way into clarity, figures scattered about, fallen and twisted, mere shades of former lives. Ghostly humans with hollow eyes wandering aimlessly. The clearing was littered with remnants of lives lost, a park bench cracked and overgrown, a backpack splattered with dried blood, remains of guilt and lingering shame. What happened here? Lisa's voice trembled, inching toward panic. The disembodied whispers started again, swirling around them with the wind like a horde of lost souls, their tones rising and falling in a forgotten lament. Look closer, Emma's voice faltered, the shadows dancing behind her eyes. Suddenly, one figure turned, locking eyes with Lisa. The horrors of its gaze tore through her, revealing a story of pain and despair. It choked on silent screams, pointing towards a distant shadow where the light faded into a grotesque mixture of darkness and unease. "Beware the tree of sorrow," it breathed, its words fading like smoke. "What does that mean?" Jake's voice cracked, dawning fear breaking through the flickering sense of safety. But the figure didn't answer. Instead, a gurgling groan echoed behind them, turning their attention back to the clearing. "Run. We need to go." Emma's plea tore through the fog of confusion, and they darted toward the edge of the clearing. Lisa could feel the very ground pulse beneath her, and with every step, she feared it would pull her down. Branches began to extend again, creeping closer, snatching at their feet with desperation. They bolted until the edges blurred, each thudding heartbeat sounding like a death knell. The figures around them seemed to howl in unison, the cacophony stone hard like rock and bone. "Which way?" Lisa screamed, fear clawing at her throat. "They're closing in," Jake shouted, pointing wildly. "That way." The glowing light in the distance grew dimmer, threatening to extinguish completely as they veered left. A shimmer caught Lisa's attention. Among the rubble and decay, a silver locket sparkled in the dimness, enticing yet terrifying. It felt alive, almost as if it throbbed with the pulse of the forest. She wavered for a moment, stretching one trembling hand toward it. But a shriek echoed, piercing through her thoughts, forcing her to instinctively lurch away. "Leave it," Emma yelled, dragging Lisa with her. But as they neared the edge of the clearing, the brightness flickered one last time, revealing a massive tree, ancient and gnarled, its bark weeping dark sap that pooled at its roots. The whispers grew louder, and Lisa felt as if the voices were clambering into her thoughts, threading through the genres of despair. "Trust the shelter. Be one with the sorrow," they cried, mixing enticement with wails of dread. "No," Jake cried out, stumbling as branches reached out with malicious intent. They burst into the thicket at the edge of the clearing, but the forest swallowed them whole again. Shadows flared to life, bouncing merrily through their limbs like mischievous spirits. The laughter echoed, melancholy and sweet in a terrible way, reminding them of their helplessness. They regrouped, panting and frantic, hearts thundering a wild rhythm. "What was that thing?" Jake gasped. "I don't know." Lisa's voice broke. "But it wanted something from us." A new understanding settled over them, unsettling and dreadful. It wasn't just the forest that had teeth. It was the memories, the lost echoes. But before they could piece together their thoughts, the figure loomed behind them again, shrouded in darkness, whispering promises of salvation or obliteration. "Join us, it's safer here," it beckoned, its voice dripping poison. With the forest closing in around them and silence threatening to devour the last of their courage, they realized one irrefutable truth. Not all shadows were meant to be escaped. As the figure extended its ominous arm, the darkness surged forward, preparing to merge with their very souls. What awaited them in this new entanglement between the light and the shadows? Would they become part of the cursed forest's twisted lore? Or was there still a chance to fight back against the darkness threatening to claim them? Thick darkness closed in like a predator, wrapping around them with clammy fingers. The figure's voice echoed in Lisa's mind, its invite both tantalizing and terrifying. She could barely breathe, each inhale catching in her throat. Her heart raced as she felt the oppressive weight of despair pressing down on her. "Run. We can't let it touch us," Jake shouted. They stumbled deeper into the shadows, branches clawing at their backs. The forest was a living thing, shifting and groaning like an old man. Each rustle of leaves seemed to mock them, whispering secrets. Emma grasped Lisa's arm tightly, her grip a lifeline. "Where do we go?" Emma cried, her eyes wide, reflecting the frantic glimmer of the ghostly light that still flickered behind them. Lisa glanced back, the figure lingering at the edge of the glow. It seemed to pulse with its own energy, like a black hole devouring all hope. "I don't know," she screamed, terror clawing at her gut. Every part of her screamed to turn back, find the locket, even reach for the cursed tree, except that part that whispered of survival. They veered right, forcing their way through a narrow path lined with gnarled roots. Shadows twisted around them, growing longer and thicker. Every step resonated with the echo of despair. There was no exit, no end in sight. Panic clawed upward, threatening to spill out. Their breaths were ragged, mingling with the sounds of unseen creatures flitting in the darkness. Suddenly, Lisa tripped over something solid, a fallen log slick with rot. She tumbled forward, hitting the ground hard. Her heart raced as she pushed herself up, catching Emma's frightened face looming above her. "Get up," Emma yelled, her voice a desperate whip cutting through the fog. The darkness seemed to laugh at them. A bitter wind swept through, chilling Lisa to the bone. Carried voices, soft and pleading. "Join us. Stay with us," sweet promises entwined with harsh realities. Lisa shuddered, feeling ice run down her spine. "Oh God, don't listen," Jake shouted. "Keep moving." But the more they ran, the more the forest morphed around them, as if it were alive, shifting to trap them deeper. As they stumbled forward, something tapped against Lisa's ankle. She glanced down to see a small, dirt-smudged hand reaching out from beneath the underbrush. Frozen, she stared into the hollow eyes of a child trapped in an eternal scream. "Help me," it whimpered, its voice like broken glass. "Don't look. Keep going," Emma shrieked. But Lisa felt an insatiable tug, as if the child's pain reached out for her soul. "No, it's a trap." Jake pulled her arm, dragging her back. They tore through the darkness, but the decay only thickened. Every moment felt like a lifetime, shadows and whispers swirling, intertwining with their fears. And still they were drawn back towards that pit of despair. The oppressive sounds of the forest crescendoed, suffocating them with warnings and pleas. "There!" Emma screamed, spotting a glimmer up ahead. A broken signpost stood crooked, rusted words barely legible. "Exit to dreams." The words sent a chill through her. Was it a way out or a false promise? "I don't know if we should." Lisa hesitated, doubt creeping like a cold mist. "Trust me," Emma shouted, determination seeping from her voice. They surged forward, pushing through dark branches that reached out like claws. The flickering light bounced off their skin, yet shadow swirled like a tempest, darkening the path behind them. As they drew closer, the air hummed with energy, and they felt the ground tremble beneath their feet. But in that moment, their breath hitched because the whispers changed. They weren't asking anymore. They were commanding. "Come to us forever." The ground shuddered again, the weight of anguish resonating like a funeral bell as the forest bent toward them. "We need to move," Lisa gasped, adrenaline firing through her as they charged. But the arms of darkness, long and squirming, reached out, trying to latch on. Panic hit them like a freight train. What if they had come too far? What if there was no escape? "Run," Jake shouted, and they raced towards the light, the darkness shrieking in rage. But what if the light, too, held a darkness of its own? With every pounding heartbeat leading the way, they dove into the glow, unaware of the true horrors that lay beyond. What awaited them as they crossed the threshold? Was it the salvation they craved? Or was it merely the next step deeper into the abyss? As they burst through the glowing veil, a rush of air slammed against them like a wall. The brightness swallowed them whole, yet it wasn't warm. Felt cold, sterile, like stepping into a morgue. They stumbled forward, disoriented, the vibrant glow flickering with a pulsating rhythm that seemed to hum with sinister intent. "Where are we?" Emma gasped, blinking against the sudden change. The world around them transformed into an eerie glade. Moonlight filtered through twisted branches, casting ghostly patterns on the ground. But this wasn't a sanctuary. It felt like an open grave. "I don't like this," Lisa whispered, her voice trembling. They stood in a clearing encircled by trees that appeared more like sentinels than guardians. The air grew heavy, dense with an unspoken dread. Shadows danced at the edge of their vision, elusive yet tangible. "Maybe we can find a way back?" Jake suggested, his bravado crumbling under the weight of uncertainty. Suddenly, a soft laughter echoed through the clearing, high-pitched and disconcerting. It bubbled up from nowhere and everywhere at once, a cacophony of mocking tones. Lisa's stomach dropped. Felt wrong, too unnatural. They turned slowly, eyes wide as shadows flickered between the trees. "Is anyone there?" Emma called hesitantly, her voice wavering. When no response came, there was a terrible pause, punctuated only by the rustling of unseen things. An overwhelming sense of being watched settled in the pit of their stomachs. A chill skated up Lisa's spine, prickling her skin. Then, from the gloom, shapes began to emerge, vague figures darting just beyond the reach of the moonlight. The air thickened, suffocating them with a sense of dread. They moved silently, their forms indistinct, floating like smoke. "We need to go," Lisa cried, grabbing Emma's arm. Panic surged within her as she tugged, but the two were frozen. Just a few feet away, a figure stepped into the dim light. Dressed in tattered clothes, its face concealed in darkness, it looked like a nightmare manifesting before them. With a grin that stretched impossibly wide, revealing teeth far too sharp, it spoke. "Welcome home." Lisa felt the ground beneath her shift, as though it wanted to swallow her whole. "Run!" She screamed again, plunging back into the shadows. Chaos erupted around them. The figures surged forward, their laughter morphing into a terrifying chorus that echoed through the trees. Branches scraped against their skin, the forest closing in, forcing them down twisted paths. "Stay together," Jake shouted, but the dread became palpable, clawing at their instincts. Lisa glanced back, and her breath hitched at what she saw. The beings weren't just shadows. They were faces of lost souls, eyes filled with torment, reaching out in silent pleas. "No," Emma wailed. "We can't leave them. Are you crazy? They're not real." Lisa shot back, pushing her forward. "We're not here to save anyone." But Emma hesitated, drawn to the ghostly faces. Time twisted in that moment, the air growing heavier, almost viscous. It felt like the forest screamed, the wind carrying anguished cries that made Lisa's heart race. Somewhere deep within the glade, she caught sight of a shimmering object, something buried deep in the roots of an ancient tree, glowing with an unearthly light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Instinctively, she felt drawn towards it, as if it held the key to unraveling the torment surrounding them. "What is that?" Emma gasped, hesitating only for a moment before her fear pulsed with curiosity. "Whatever it is, it's not good," Jake warned, but Lisa was already moving, a need to understand overriding the instinct to flee. As they made for the tree, the laughter shifted, becoming frantic. Join us," it taunted, each voice slipping further into madness. Just as they reached the tree, the ground trembled violently beneath their feet. "Now!" Lisa shouted, reaching for the glowing object. She felt a jolt, a sudden rush of cold. The voices crescendoed into a shriek that resonated deep within her soul. In that moment, they were faced with a decision. Assertion of survival or surrender to the darkness. Would they pull back or grasp the glow, stepping deeper into the realm of suffering and madness? As she reached for it, everything trembled and the shadows surged forth, closing in around them. The world around them erupted in chaos. What would their choice unleash? And would it bind them forever to this cursed place? "Lisa!" Emma shouted. But it was too late. What force awaited them at that cursed tree? And would it save them, or draw them into eternal darkness? The moment Lisa's fingers brushed against the glowing object, a jolt ran through her, as if a live wire surged through her body. The sensation was electric yet undeniably wrong, sending icy tendrils of fear blossoming in her chest. She looked back at Emma and Jake, their faces drawn tight with terror as the shadows screeched, clawing at their limbs. The glade felt alive, pulsating with a heartbeat that echoed the rhythm of the glowing object. "Let go. It's not worth it," Jake yelled, his voice cracking with desperation. The laughter, once distant, now escaped as maniacal shrieks, swirling in the tumultuous air. But Lisa couldn't pull away. It was as though the object held her captive, whispering secrets she couldn't quite grasp. As she gripped it tightly, A wave of clarity washed over her visions of the faces trapped in the shadows, their silent screams igniting a spark of determination. "We have to help them," she cried out, a force rising within her. Emma's eyes widened, caught between fear and resolution. "Are you insane? They're not real, Lisa." The shadows grew restless, swirling and flickering in response to her words, their energy crackling through the air as if alive. "Stay back," Jake warned, stepping protectively in front of Emma. But the darkness was drawing closer, eager fingers skimming across their skin. Lisa could feel the cold breath of the spectral figures, like icy fingers grazing her neck. The air thickened, and the roots of the ancient tree twisted upward, reaching as if to snare them. Without thinking, Lisa yanked the object free. Instantly, the shrill laughter ceased, replaced by a heavy silence that pressed down on them, thick as molasses. In her hand, the glowing object flared brightly, a small crystal orb, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat, bathing her in a soft, otherworldly light. "Look," Lisa shouted, holding it high. "Maybe it can free them." The figures hesitated, their forms flickering under the orb's glow. For a breath-stopping moment, the clearing fell quiet, the malevolent laughter replaced by a hushed, hungry curiosity. The once tormenting faces now seemed to shimmer. They were no longer just shadows, but reflections of lost expectations and hopes, each one begging for release. "Do it, Lisa," Emma urged, her voice strained but steady. "Free them." But just as Lisa stepped forward to reach out with the orb, the ground quaked violently. The laughter returned, deeper and more menacing. The shadows surged back to life, coiling around her ankles, pulling her down into the earth. "Help me," she screamed, trying to regain her footing. "We can't just leave them. Forget them," Jake roared, his own fear turning to fury. "You don't know what they are. We have to get out of here." "Emma, grab my hand," Lisa shouted, adrenaline surging through her. But the ground was splitting apart beneath them, dark fissures creeping like veins, spreading wider. Lisa felt herself slipping, the shadows feeding off her fear. With a surge of desperation, she threw the orb toward the ancient tree. "If you want to take something, take this," she cried, the light bursting forth in kaleidoscope colors as it soared through the air. The shadows screamed a sound that clawed at their sanity, echoing through the glade. The orb collided with the roots, shattering on impact, sending crystalline shards flying like shooting stars, illuminating the clearing with flashes of brilliant light. The figures recoiled, their anguish boiling into rage as the glade erupted into chaos. "Run!" Emma screamed, grabbing Lisa's arm as they tore away from the cracking earth, desperate to escape the wrath of the shadows that swarmed. But even as they fled, Lisa glanced back, sensing one last tug from the dark recesses. They wanted her, needed her. As they plunged back into the forest, the laughter morphed into furious howls, reverberating through the trees behind them. Branches swiped at them savagely, the darkness pursuing them like a hungry beast. Then they stumbled into a narrow pathway. Was it the way out, or did it lead deeper into the abyss? They had only seconds to decide. "It's not over," Lisa gasped, her heart racing. "They're coming for us." What awaited them at the end of the pathway? Was salvation within reach, or were they drawing closer to a fate worse than death? Through the dense hush of the forest, Emma tugged at Lisa's wrist, dragging her deeper into the suffocating dark. Each hurried breath felt like a freight train steaming ahead, filling her chest with lead-weight panic. What had they unleashed with the orb? Fear gnawed at her insides, spiraling into dread. "Just keep running," Jake urged, his voice raw. The anger from moments before melted away, replaced with frantic insistence. "Don't look back." But Lisa did. The shadows lay thick behind them, swirling and billowing like smoke from a fire long extinguished. She could almost make out faces hollow, sunken, eyes filled with an insatiable hunger. They were alive more than mere figments. They craved her, the essence of her fear. The realization made her blood run cold. "Where does this path lead?" Emma panted, glancing over her shoulder. "Do you even know? This way looks even darker." It has to lead somewhere, Lisa replied, uncertainty creeping up her spine. The branching trees loomed like watchful sentinels, their gnarled roots almost forming an invisible barrier around them, as if warning them to turn back. Then came the sound, a deep, rumbling growl that echoed through the forest. It resonated in her bones, a promise of imminent danger. They weren't just being chased by shadows anymore. Something more corporeal pounded through the underbrush, eager to close the gap. Emma's fear-stricken face turned deadly serious. We have to hide. Now. She angled toward the side of the pathway, pushing through a thicket of bramble and ferns. No, they'll find us. Jake protested, but his voice broke, revealing his own wavering confidence. The howls of the shadows grew nearer, vicious laughter reverberating from the depths of the trees. With a sudden surge of instinct, they slipped into the dense undergrowth, pressing themselves flat against the ground, hearts pounding like war drums. The shadows whirled overhead, their screeches carpeting the forest like a malevolent symphony. For what felt like hours, they lay there, barely breathing, waiting for the dark to pass. The growl morphed into a series of haunting whispers, curling into Lisa's ears. Join us, we are one. I can't take it, Emma whispered, her voice trembling. What if they get us? We have to wait, Jake's voice shook. Just hold on. Then a loud snap. The bushes parted sharply, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness. It stood motionless, face hidden in shadows, as if waiting for them to make a sound, to give in to their panic. What do we do? Lisa gasped, her throat dry as dust. I don't know. Jake snapped, fear twisting his features. We can't stay here. We have to find a way out. But the figure didn't move. Instead, it seemed to draw strength from their hesitation, drawing closer to them, a palpable energy pulsing through the air, heavy and suffocating. Emotions like despair and terror pressed in, wresting control from Lisa's body. A desperate thought rushed into her mind. Were they truly powerless, or could fear itself be manipulated? Emma, Lisa whispered, it's gonna find us anyway. We need to confront it. Face our fears together. No, are you out of your mind? Emma cried, eyes wide with panic. Trust me. Lisa breathed, her voice steady in the trembling dark. If it feeds on fear, we have to stand and fight. What if it all goes wrong? Emma replied, glancing back at the figure. What if this only makes it worse? For all we know, it can't get any worse. Lisa said, determination clawing back into her chest. We've already faced so much, we can't let it win now. Not when we're so close. Jake nodded slowly, swallowing hard. Okay, together. On 3. There was a moment where hope flickered in the darkness, hanging by a thread. Would it break or would it hold? On 3, 1, 2, 3. They burst forth from the brambles, heartbeats racing, all fear channeled into the hollers of defiance. Lisa felt a newfound power surging through her. But what would they truly face in this final confrontation? The shadowy figure lifted its head, a ghastly grin stretching wide, and then it lunged. What lay beyond this moment? Would they conquer their fears, or plunge deeper into the nightmarish depths of the forest? The figure lunged at them, a dark mass that seemed to swallow all light in its path. Lisa felt a surge of adrenaline. Together, she shouted, forcing her feet to propel her forward. Jake and Emma flanked her, and in that instant, they formed a barrier against the darkness. As the monstrous apparition lunged, Lisa braced herself. Face it. Let go of the fear, she screamed, their voices mingling in a primal roar that cut through the thick tension. The moment the dark shadow hit them, an explosion of coldness released, yet Lisa could feel warmth pooling within her. The air thickened, swirling like a storm around them, but it was as if they had summoned something stronger. Hope. The shadows hesitated, momentarily recoiling, as the light from the broken orb transformed into a bright beam, piercing through the dark. The fear that had gnawed at their insides began to transform into clarity, dispelling the haze that had clouded their vision. I won't let you take me, Lisa yelled, stepping forward. The figures held onto the anguish radiating from her, desperate to pull her back into the silence. but their very presence was met with resistance. The shadowy figure loomed over them, eyes wild and hungry, but now they could see it was not invincible. "Let them go," Emma shouted. The shadows screamed, their twisted features faltering, revealing glimpses of those lost had passed this way before. Each face mirrored the torment, clawing for release like trapped animals. At their combined defiance, the creatures screeched, stirring the forest into a frenzy. The ground shook violently as the horrific laughter turned to wails of agony, caught between two worlds, that of fear and that of hope. "Now, push through. We can break this curse," Jake encouraged, determination igniting in his voice. He took Lisa and Emma's hands, and as they stood united, a shimmering force pushed against the encroaching darkness. In that moment of collective courage, a light erupted from the orb's fragments scattered on the ground, illuminating the area. The shadows writhed and twisted, their faces contorting with agony. Realization dawned across their spectral visages. This was not merely a battle of survival but of reconciliation. "Help us!" A voice, soft yet piercing, echoed among the specters. In unison, Lisa shouted, "We will help you. We won't leave you here." Her heart hammered with urgency. This was more than a fight against fear. It was a chance to heal those marked by the forest's curse. A cold surge of wind washed over them, but alongside it came the memories of those lost, their stories intertwined with the trees. Fragments of laughter and tears swirled around, and for the first time, their hopes surged through the air. As the light started to invade their space with vibrancy, the restrictive shadows began to dissolve. "We will never forget. You are not alone," they shouted together. At those words, the dark figure seemed to falter, doubt creeping into its essence. Those trapped souls, feeling the warmth of recognition, began to rise from the depths of their despair, merging with the light that poured over them like rain. The dark being recoiled, its form shifting like water in the current. "No, you will pay," it histrionically screeched, but it was too late. It wound down as the radiant force intensified, pushing deeper into the forest, scattering the specters away through glowing pathways illuminated by hope. The shadows that had plagued them dissolved into nothingness, a release echoing like distant thunder. They stood together, panting but free. The forest breathed anew, trembling with life as the oppressive grip loosened, releasing a bright dawn filtering through the remaining branches. We did it." Emma blinked in disbelief, glancing at Lisa and Jake, her voice filled with both hope and exhaustion. "Yes," Lisa gasped, disbelief mingling with relief pressing heavy in their chests. Though they were covered in sweat and grime, triumph coursed through their bodies, uniting them in a bond forged amidst despair. As they stepped forward, the air glowed with potential. The path was clear, leading them out of the forest's suffocating embrace. Together, hand in hand, they navigated their way through the remnants of lost souls now at peace. As the trees parted, sunlight poured through, warming their faces for the first time. "Let's go home," Lisa whispered, an extraordinary blend of relief and bittersweet loss flooding through her. They turned back, glancing into the forest one last time where shadows now held promises of freedom, no longer curses. Every footstep felt like liberation, a beat of unity against the soft whispers in the air urging them to stay, urging them into the darkness that once threatened to consume them. No more. As they left Clarendon Forest behind, the enormity of their experience settled into reality, a reminder of the darkness they had conquered, but also of the importance of remembering those lost stories no longer confined to the shadows. And as they emerged into the light, the forest whispered anew, not with malice but with a promise of healing for all, a farewell sealed over their shared triumph. Now, before all of this fades into the mist of memory, there's something you need to do. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will thrill and chill you. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, because your support means everything. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this gripping conclusion. Your voices deserve to be heard. And finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Be part of this community that loves to dive into chilling tales.